Good design can be described as something which you are very happy using, a product or a poster or even a communication.
Actually, if you ask me, keeping it simple is the hardest part.
Don't assume anything. Start like you looking at a product for the first time and see how you react to it.
A huge, huge congratulations to you for the Hills Millennium Award for the international designers. One of the things that designers need to do, especially working with researchers and all that, is to very keenly observe the customers, the users in their space, right? So, are there any key techniques which you think they apply? HSB, Harishankar Singhania School of Business, the new global technology focused business school located in Jaipur. Hello, welcome to this episode of Product Talk with Malthi. Today I am very happy to host another educator on my podcast. This is Professor A. Balasubramaniam, who is the director of Institute of Design at JKLU. He's somebody who comes with 4 decades of experience of design of building physical products, from tractors to torches during his time at Hero Motors, Eicher, Everready. Last 2 decades, he has been spending a lot of time as an educator across multiple universities. And he's been working with government initiatives, especially designing building products at the grassroots level. Very happy to also share that he's receiving the Hills Millennium Award for International Designers in UK on 12th July. So super excited to host him. So what did we talk about in this episode? Well, we started talking about what is his viewpoint of what good design is all about. He shared multiple examples of products that he likes, he dislikes, he has built. We talk about his interactions with students and how is kind of transferring the craft to his students and how do they go about building it. We spoke about the nuances of designing a physical product versus a digital product with a tinge of inclusivity. And last but not the least, we also spoke about how is AI evolving the space of design. So, Professor A. Balasubramaniam, welcome to this episode, sir.
Thank you very much, Malthi, for having me here. I'm happy to be here.
It's all my pleasure, to be talking to a veteran like you, who has, built things from, I would say, tractors to torches. For the last 2 decades, you've been into teaching, you've been working with the grassroots level. So there is like tons of goodness that I see that we'll be getting in this episode. And most importantly, sir, a huge, huge congratulations to you for the Hills Millennium Award for the international designers.
Thank you so much. Thanks very much. You've been very kind.
Yeah, no, this is such a big honor for me to have. You are the first Indian to receive that award, and I
That's
feel extremely, like this thing to privilege to have you on my episode and look forward to many, many more such awards coming your way.
Thank you very much.
All right. Sir, your experience of spanning across multiple decades, what is your definition of good design?
Good design can be described as something which you are very happy using, a product or a poster or even a communication, a book or anything of that kind. A good design actually helps you. I mean, it gets you delighted, to use, and so it's user centric in the sense that it should look, it can look as how it should be, but the essential part is that when you use it, it delights you, it satisfies you, and it leaves a nice feeling behind. That's what design is all about. I mean, it's something which can look good, cannot function properly. It's not good design really. So design will have to be essentially user centric and user centered.
Yeah, okay. In the recent times, is there any product that gave you that kind of a feeling of a really good design?
Uh, I I get this feeling when I open an Apple product,
Uh-huh.
an iPhone or iMac, or I mean, there is a sense of wow, and that's something which they build into the product. So I don't know how they do that. So there is always, if you want to gift somebody, I've given an Apple product and they're delighted. They're
Hmm.
happy to use it, whether it's an iPad or an iPhone or whatever. The
Right.
people are so excited receiving it. And So they've really got it on right, how to delight the customer.
So yeah, yeah. I mean, I think many of us. I'm a very proud and enamored iPhone user, so I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we say that design often hides in plain sight, right? So are there everyday physical products that you admire because they just get it right? Even though they are probably not considered very fancy.
Hmm. Okay, not fancy. Actually, I have a different take on this. I'm not looking at a manufactured product. Something like a gumcha, which is I don't know if you know what a gumcha is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
little reddish, loose leaf towel, which is used by the Bihar most of the place, and a lot of North Indian houses. And it works so beautifully. The functionality dries you up very quickly, and it dries it very quickly as well. You can use it as a pillow to, in a bus, you're traveling by bus. You can use it to. I've seen people using it to filter honey and make sprouts, and it's the right size, it's the right texture. It works very well. It's couldn't have been designed by one person. No, it would have probably evolved over a period of time. Similarly, the cot in outside the Punjabi households. I don't know if you've seen them.
Yeah.
Those are also they used to wet rice is spread on it to dry. You use it to sleep. You use it as a dining table. You use it to play chess, and an enormous number of things happen. And use it as a partition while you're having a bath. And it's multi-purpose, and it's not designed to be multi-purpose. It's designed to to delight you the way it is. These are products which have taken a long time to be designed, so to speak,
Right.
and that's something which you can't put in a manufactured product. You know what I'm saying?
So
Yeah. So these are the two products I think of when I want to tell them what good design is all about.
yeah, yeah. So I think you give it in the hands of the user, and they will figure out a use case for it.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, no, that those are and something which you see on a daily basis all the time around you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right. So, like you've been mentoring and teaching students for the last couple of decades, and you have made, like everything from smart chairs to grocery apps, right? So, what do you see? What are the things that the young designers use in order to interpret the user needs?
So they do research, at least in JKLU, they're very strong on research, user research. And so for instance, there is a project which is done by a student. It is called Making the Government Services Accessible to Last Mile and a Doorstep by making e-rickshaws as an interface for government with a compact setup. Okay, so this is a project where the student understood what the user wants in terms of, suppose you want a birth certificate or you want a license, etc. So oops, she developed this e-rickshaw, which was designed to take the office to the user, and it was developed in such a way that so she, because of the research she did, the kind of time that is wasted and the kind of everybody has to take a day off from their work and they have to get things done. She just reversed the whole process, and that came about because of the research she did, and so we are strong on research and we're strong on identifying problems as design opportunities, and we able to work on them, and come up with a solution. So they it's systemic as well. Any problem is not you can't see it in isolation. You have to see it as a part of the system,
Correct.
and see that whatever change you do on one end could affect another end, and we should be aware of that and should be able to develop products and systems based on that.
Yeah,
It,
no, that's
does
right.
it,
So, were there any specific aspects of this e-rickshaw that they kind of designed, which kind of was much more useful for student, for the user?
the e-rickshaw itself had it had a desk built into the whole construct, and it had a computer, basically a laptop which you carry with power or center, etc. And Yeah, so that's what the major description is about. The fact that you could have an interface design and and you put it on an auto rickshaw with a power backup is what the whole product is all about. But I mean, if you look at it that way, but if you see the research done and you see how it led to this product, however simplistic it is, tells another story. How you understand requirements from of people.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
typically, what are the traditional ways that students, especially I mean, when because I've been also doing products for a very long time now, and one of the things that designers need to do, especially working with researchers and all that, is to very keenly observe the customers, the users in their space, right? So are there any key techniques which you think they apply helps them to quickly connect with the needs, understand the users much more deeply, and develop the empathy?
So our faculty use all these social science, the borrowed ideas from social sciences. Your observation, and you interact and interviews and primary research, secondary research, all that.
Uh-huh.
So that, in that sense, it's not unique. But what is unique is the fact that they do it, you know, eh, with a depth that it calls for. I think that's where there's a little difference. For instance, they did a project for the Delhi Metro. The students went and understood that they were trying to map opportunities for design, etc. At one point, they realized that the visually impaired can actually go call and ask for help to be taken from the entrance to the metro train. So
Oh,
that's a facility Delhi Metro had because they wanted to be seen as doing things for the underprivileged, etc. But my students said that there's no need to do this. So there you can incorporate it into the railings. So you have a railing running across the whole place,
right.
and it has braille embedded onto it, so you know where you are. It has it's a braille signage, so to speak. And so the student developed this whole thing, and it's something which is very much doable, and it's unobtrusive. It's not going to make you central to the problem, in the sense that if there's a visually impaired person, he is just walking along, using the railing, but and it doesn't look odd,
Hmm.
and it's a solution which is creative and it takes care of the problem, and that comes about because you've gone and understood what the problem. You've sat in the place, seen people walking across, and seen the blind people being taken by assistants, and so that comes from empathy, and that comes from observing what the problems are.
Right. So kind of
Yeah.
very, very, very much ingraining it as part of the overall process, because pretty much all of us, whether we are impaired or not impaired, we all tend to use the railings and the daily use things. So that's a beautiful way of bringing in inclusivity in your daily products.
See, in fact, there is inclusivity. If you see the airport has got flat floors
Right.
because everybody is taking their school suitcases, and that helps everybody. So even in the person on a wheelchair has more access to various places, simply because it's a flat floor. Otherwise, these architects come up with these nice steps everywhere, and they look very nice, but it is very impractical, and you have to have a ramp separately for the disabled or the wheelchair bound, and it creates a sort of a division. It's not inclusive even if you put a ramp. Whereas that same difference is not there in an airport. So it's possible to include everybody into it. It's a concept called universal design. So it's something which is good for everybody, and you don't have to make something I mean something which is different from uh, something which is existing. You can figure out solutions within an existing scenario itself.
Correct.
So, yeah,
Actually, if you ask me, keeping it simple is the hardest part.
absolutely, it is.
Yeah,
My
that's
mom
right.
used to say making a rasam is the most difficult part. It seems very simplistic, but it's not. It's very difficult.
My own
Yeah.
rasam comes very differently every other day.
Yeah, yeah. So does mine. I can't make a good rasam, although I cook a lot, but I can't make a good rasam. Yeah.
Okay. So, sir, now that you've kind of, witnessed multiple decades and, whether you're building physical products or you're building digital products, design is a very like central theme or element of that. In your experience, what do you think goes differently whether you're building a physical product or a digital product, especially thinking about, let's say, ergonomics, material, accessibility? What are some fundamental differences?
The fact that you're making the user use the product in a particular way, using controls and displays in a physical product, that is the essential part of a product designer when he works with, say, a washing machine. And so you have a washing machine with a rotary control, which you use it for selection of the wash cycle. And in that, you have the options you have is either jeans or lingerie or bed sheets. Those are kind of clothes you use. Then there's the quick. So
Correct.
if you want a quick wash and jeans to be washed, which one do I choose? So there is it's a rotary control and it doesn't have those options at all. So I always tell them, and this has been used very well by Whirlpool in a product where they realize that the people who use a washing machine in a household is the maid, especially in India, and they realize that you should design it for the maid because she's the user, not the one who's buying the product. And so it was designed very simplistically. It had one, two, three. So that's all. There are only three controls, and that worked very well for a while. Whirlpool has got some interesting products designed for the Indian market. They had a refrigerator, for instance, which built had a built-in potato and onion container, which is a part of the kitchen in the North India at least.
Right.
So they incorporate that into the base of the fridge. Now the fridge is now taller, and you have a space for the aloo pyaz, as they say,
Okay.
and it gives you tremendous. The middle class is happy that they got a taller fridge for a lesser price, and so it plays on the user's persona, and so I think I think that's an important part of a physical product design person to exercise.
Right. And what do you think we would do differently to design a digital product?
Coming back to washing machine, there was a angular front with the controls, and it had an on-off control, and they've improved on it, so to speak, and they put a digital interface,
Mm-hmm.
and now I can't see, and it's vertical. So when I'm looking at the thing, I can't see the thing because it's vertical. So I have to bend down to see where the controls are, touch controls.
Correct.
So it's not always the right solution. The touch control is not always the right solution, and somehow I don't know why people don't understand this. And finally, you're not catered to the use case. Somebody who's I have a progressive lens. So somebody who uses a progressive lens, how does he read a vertical surface?
Mm.
And it's not in your eye level; it's below. And these are things are ergonomics, but it's also common sense, I think.
Correct.
So I don't know if it answers the question, but that's a pet peeve of mine.
No, no, that's right. I actually, like for example, a lot of products, like for example, if you look at a car, I think primarily the way the cars have been designed, they've been designed for male. I don't think they have really thought a lot of things about what it takes for, let's say, a female driver, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, they have gotten better probably than what it was a few years back. But a lot of designs, especially as you said, right? If you're bringing in a digital screen, you need to think through that you cannot have a flat screen. It needs to be probably slightly more tilted so that the person
Yeah.
can look at it, but otherwise they need to
Yeah.
bend down.
You talk about gender. Gender is another pet peeve of mine, and Taj had an entire floor for women business persons, and they said it's
Oh,
safe, and even the waiters had were women, and so the security was women. So it was a safe place. So people who are traveling alone on business, women who are traveling alone can use that floor for them. But the inside of the room is painted pink, and they have women's era and femina as reading material, not Economic Times and Business World. And so that is cliched, no, and that is what they think is
deep bias.
what. Yeah. So these are again my irritation, and so who decides these things, and how do these products come about? How do these? decisions come to be, come and get implemented.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to have a bad idea, but the bad idea to be implemented is quite another thing. Yeah.
So, what would you design? Actually, that's a brilliant topic that you've brought in, right? That people have these deep biases running, which needs to be consciously identified. Like, assuming that if it is designed for women or if it is designed for kids, you just need to have those kind of reading material or stuff like that. When you are, or your team or your students, when they are kind of processing this whole design element, how do they kind of think through that, how to eliminate the bias?
So, firstly, understand that you have a bias is the first step towards it. The fact that you are biased and you do have a preconceived notion about things is something which one must realize. And only when you do that will you. It's like alcoholics. You have to first say that I'm an alcoholic, and only then will you start the steps towards improving. And I think so. I tell my design students whenever we work on a project is that don't assume anything, nothing. I mean, start like you looking at a product for the first time and see how you react to it. And that will tell you, that will help you look at it afresh and come up with solutions which are fresh. So it's like starting from scratch. I even go up to a point where I say that if you're designing a washing machine, start with the process of washing.
Yeah.
Don't take the machine. The machine comes later. What is it that you want to wash and how do you want to wash?
Correct.
and and then come to the product and see the variety of products available. So how is the need to use the product? You to um, need to be used. Identify the need
Correct.
and design for the need. And not for the product now. So
Yeah. It's like,
I
don't
don't know.
carry your drilling machine and looking for the hole, but try to figure out why the hole is needed.
One is that it makes your life simpler if you want to understand research of products, etc., and get insights from research. Those things can be speeded up, but how reliable it is the question. But that is one that's an advantage. I've always said this about AI is that it has limitations. The map that you Google Maps is AI enabled, and
Correct.
it doesn't tell you whether you have a cow on the road or it's got a marriage procession going, or in India these things will not work. The
Correct.
maps and for instance, your text prediction, predictive text. You are correcting autocorrect more than autocorrect correcting you.
And it's learning.
So yeah, so I mean, it'll take a long time before it becomes useful for us,
Correct.
and I don't think there is any danger into our creative people. How many Ghiblis can make, and how do you use it? The reason to it's a tool. You should know how to use it, and that's where the difference is. I'm a designer. I know how to use it.
Right.
People who have access to it can't become designers. So there is a difference.
Okay, that's a great
Yeah.
point. So
Yeah.
you don't think like this is a threat, but you think that this could be more like a companion to make things faster or maybe better.
I mean, beyond writing applications and things like that. So in fact, this is a very funny situation where I was supposed to go for a sports meet, and I thought, what if they make me speak? I'm very bad at public speaking and all that. So I just asked, what do I write? What do I say in a inaugural speech for a sports day? So
Okay.
they gave me a brilliant piece. I took it across, and then I realized that everybody has the same piece. You know, the the others on stage also had something very not same but very similar. So so I realized that it has huge limitations, and uh, I don't know how if I mean we can still use it to our advantage. I mean, it's
Hmm.
not going to take over the world as yet.
Right. But
Yeah.
but do you see, I mean, this is again a slightly, I would say, debatable aspect. But as an educator, and somebody who's so close to design, do you think there are any downsides of AI?
See, the downside is that you are restricted by the by uh, what is spewed out by the AI, the
Hmm.
software.
Hmm.
So you're restricted by that. So you want to illustrate a book, for instance, and you say that I want a very uh, traditional style of illustration and all that. So it will give you something which will meet the purpose,
Hmm.
but you're restricted to that. That may not be what you wanted, and so you are restricted by the kind of illustrations that it can do based on what it's learned. So if you want to say have a what's it called the painting, a traditional painting,
Uh-huh.
powder painting or any of these traditional
Tanjore
art,
painting.
yeah, something like that. So if the software knows what tangible painting is all about, it may give you a. If it
Correct.
doesn't know, it'll have to learn before you can give it.
Correct.
So that's what I'm saying. It's a long way off.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, it's still progressing. Where it will take us is something, but I think we have to be very mindful, conscious, and as I
So,
said, you're right, how to use it.
hmm, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to kind of ask something. Like, have you like in your experience of building so many different types of product nature, like from tractors to torches, and now working with a lot of rural setup that you have been kind of working, any particular instance, any particular example of a building a product, designing a product that you thoroughly enjoyed and you thought had a great impact that you would like to share?
I designed a product called the multipurpose processor,
Okay.
and that is done for an innovator who was identified with the National Innovation Foundation. So they had got this guy to took his innovation and patented it, and then gave it to us, saying that can you redesign it for better marketing, etc. And interestingly, the product came about because he was a rickshaw puller, and he was taking the tomatoes from the field to the processing center, and he was doing several rounds. So he thought if he had a processor in the field, he could, gain a lot of time by, doing it processing there, and you take the processed food across.
Okay.
So he developed a product which is very interesting and made out of steel, so which is not stainless steel but iron,
Okay.
and so it will rust, and cleaning was an issue and stuff like that. So when we went up to him and said that let's understand why you did it the way you've done, he thought we were competing with him. And he thought, we are here to take away his idea because he knew NIF has patented it. So I come from NIF, so I must be a guy who's copying his idea. He would not cooperate at all. And through the whole process, I got all the information I wanted, but I had to really dig it out from him. And in the end, when I presented it to him, I said, "This is your prototype now." He said, "Really? I thought you're going to win in this competition." I said, "Where is the competition?" And there's no winning. It is both of us are working towards the same process. So yeah, so that is a very funny incident. And
Okay.
so I had to teach him what designers do, and their interest is not to take away your ideas, but to build on your ideas and make a marketable product out of it. He got orders for several pieces right away in the first exhibition that he had
Oh,
from
okay.
Patanjali.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
And what was the difference that I feel? I mean, after you redesigned it, were there something like there were huge differences in the design or
huge, huge
huge?
differences.
Okay.
So it was aesthetically pleasing, and it had an angular the drum. The drum was not vertical; it was angular, so that it falls. When it grinds, it's automatically the gravity falls. And
Okay.
we had a different kind of a blade, so that
Uh,
it can take care of. It beats. It doesn't grind. It beats, so that
okay.
so the tomatoes become, the texture is maintained, and then it's easy to clean. So you can just, that was another thing. And it can be compact so that it can be carried around, and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it was a very interesting product. In fact, NIF uses it on their annual report cover all the time. So
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah,
that must be like super proud
yeah.
moment.
Yeah,
Right. And any product, right? I mean, you've been now with JKLU for the last 4 years, 5 years now. Uh,
7, almost
Seven.
7.
Okay, okay. Any products that your students have designed, which you are really very very proud of and would like to
There's
talk
a product which my one of my students, I was in the jury, so I was very surprised that he had come up with such an interesting idea.
about? Uh-huh.
So it is for a stretcher for the hospital
Oh,
that
okay.
is based on that is I mean, it's an stretcher in the sense that it has a battery operated mobility. So
Okay.
what happens is that it now needs only one person instead of two to
Push.
drive it around the hospital. And he had designed the way the patient will be transferred from the thing to us, from the product to the bed, and he figured out the he wanted to design. See that again, he started by saying that the last mile mobility, which is done by the e-rickshaw, how do we redesign that? That's how we started the project. But the project went on to say that no, the last mile is okay, but the e-rickshaw can be used. The concept of an e-rickshaw can be used in healthcare products.
Hmm.
So then they gave him a new handle, and then he started working on it. And a brilliant job, in fact. And so, I mean, something as simple as putting a battery on a product like that
Right.
made it different. And he didn't stop at that. He did ergonomic product, the heights and weights and the material and all that he worked on.
So when you kind of, especially when you're kind of, looking at building these physical products, right? I mean, of course, there is a lot of innovation possible, as you said, just putting the two together, the battery and stretcher, and it kind of came up with a brilliant innovation, right? Is there like some kind of a checklist that people are going through, from a material perspective, ergonomics perspective, how they can make it better, or is it kind of more intuition led? How does that work?
No, you do have books and checklists and materials and processes, etc.
Uh-huh.
But you'll have to know that we teach them that as well, the processes, materials and processes. And but every time it's a new material, it's a new product. So you have to learn from scratch and see how it is made, etc. In fact, because of the 3D printing, the processes are now not so important. You can do a product out of a 3D printer, and parts can be made the processing is not so important, and you can make one or two pieces instead of manufacturing
Correct.
1,000 pieces or something like that.
Correct.
So 3D printing has helped in that sense in education institutions. That's the default process for making a model, etc. So that's one. And there are studies for ergonomics and Indian population and how the sizes and the weights you can carry, the limitations of the reach and the things like that. That's been done by ergonomists and it's been published as well.
Right.
HKUs. Hmm.
Right. Okay. Okay, see, another perspective that I wanted to talk about is if you look at the large, I mean, India has a huge population, right? And it is kind of classified largely, let's say, the top tier, which is the people who live in tier one cities, and there is a lot of, operational or efficiency led products which are there, whether, Zeptos of the world or Make My Trip or Book My Show kind of a thing. Two, there is a larger, I would say, where 80-85% of India's population is the Bharat that we spoke about, right? And which is multilinguistic. Their settings, their challenges are very, very different from the top 5%, 10% of Indian market, which is there. Now,
Yeah.
since you're working with a lot of these grassroots agencies and products, do you think there is enough focus? Do you think there is much more room to design for Bharat? What is your take on that?
In fact, I tell you very one interesting project that my students did. They were working on Jaipur transport bus services,
Mm-hmm.
and they realized that the UPI doesn't work in a bus. It because they struggle. Everybody struggles. The guys who take the bus, especially in Jaipur, it's
Okay.
very that's the last resort. If you don't have anything, you take the bus and go.
Okay.
And so the conductor is. in a hurry to issue a ticket, and he's not going to wait for you to use a mobile and check your UPI balance and that sort of thing.
Correct.
So it's now become a default thing is to pay cash. So UPI didn't work in this situation, and that understanding has come because they observed how the product was being used. I mean, and they tried saying that you can take shortcuts like this, etc. No, but the population didn't understand that at all. They'd rather pay by cash than going through the whole struggle of going by UPI.
Oh,
So
okay.
this was an insight which you get only when you and you realize that your audience is not always the elite South Delhi kind of a person, but there is also small town. Not I'm not even talking about rural. I'm talking about small town like Jaipur has a population which is not familiar with these things. But the same guy will know how to book a ticket, railway ticket, right? Because that's something which is very important for him to understand because he uses it all the time. And
Hmm.
IRCTC can really rest easy because everybody knows how to use the product. However badly designed the whole thing is. So so that is another thing. And so, Bharat, you need to cater to the majority, and so there will be a learning curve, but hope and pray that it gets, understood sooner than later.
Yeah.
Like they say, every time you design something idiot-proof, a new idiot is found. So, you can't really design for everybody, but you should be able to get to at least the minimal uh, number of
Correct.
users.
Correct. And you rightly said, like unless you go and uh, stay in that zone, only then you can really understand what is the pain point your users really go through. Now, wow, those were some really lovely examples and insights, Bala sir. Maybe I want to have one last question. Like if you have to leave our users with, like, let's say, one guideline to build some truly delightful products, what would that be?
I don't know who your user, I mean, viewers are, but I have I wrote a piece on my blog. It's called Demand Good Design. I think it's very important for us to not get limited to having bad products and not tolerate or not settle for bad products. You have to design a good, I mean, you have to demand good design from people. And if you go to Denmark, the bus tickets, the seat, the bus stand, everything is designed properly. And it's a delight to be in Copenhagen. But I was wondering why it's not the same here because but in Copenhagen they demand if it's a badly designed seat they will talk about it
Okay.
and but in India we just kindly adjust so we just adjust ourselves to bad design. So my request to all your viewers is that don't accept and don't settle for something bad.
Design.
And when you realize that you can't put the kettle on in the morning and it doesn't work properly or if the newspaper can't be opened because of its half pages and 3-4 pages and so all that is bad design and if you start your day with such a lot of bad design you can imagine, I mean, a person like me going through a variety of products in the morning. I mean, the flush doesn't flush properly. It's got you got a whole lot of things that doesn't work.
Correct.
And if it has to become better, we have to have a constancy for design. So that will happen only if you have demand for design.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And especially a lot of people who are our viewers, they are basically product builders, tech product builders, founders. So I think keeping that very high design sense and empathy for design for the users is like super critical to build some delightful products, as you rightly
Yeah,
said.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Really.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank you, Bala sir. That was such
Thank you.
a delightful conversation. Thank you for taking the time out, and congratulations again as
Thank you
you
very
go
much.
to UK very soon to collect the award.
Yeah.
HSB integrates timeless leadership principles with a cutting edge curriculum to give graduates an edge in the market. Through partnerships with companies and academic institutions within India and abroad, HSB graduates have a boundless opportunities worldwide.